What's up, YouTubians? Gary, VWJawbreaker. Today we're diving into a upgrade on Lulu, the 1976 Volkswagen bus that, well, there's a lot of chatter about online, but I can't really seem to find many videos or really a whole lot of information on it, and I'm a visual learner. So I figure if I'm going to go through with doing this upgrade, maybe you want to watch. Stay tuned. Let's dive into this. All right, let's do a little comparison here real quick. You know, there's two different engines that come in a bay window bus. The early bays had a Type 1 engine, which you'll find in your Beetles. So that's a typical Type 1 engine. Your alternator, of course, sits right there. Easy enough to find different amperage alternators. Now, on the later VW buses, of course, they run a Type 4 engine. And a Type 4 engine has a regular alternator down there. That's regular, right? It's not fan driven like a Type 1. On your Type 4, your fan's actually bolted to your crank. So your fan belt only runs your alternator. However, stock was 55 amps. It's really the only option you have. Some alternators, some buses equipped, you know, had certain features or whatever, had a 65 amp alternator. And to be honest with you, that's plenty for a normal bus and a normal setup. However, you start adding DC to DC chargers, stereo systems, off-road lights, things of that nature, guess what? It's not really enough. That 55 amp struggles. And that's where we're at right now. That's the predicament we're in. Now, one nice thing about my DC to DC charger is, of course, I do have a solar set up on top. I have a 165 amp hour battery down there. This is actually a 40 amp DC to DC charger. However, there's a little jumper right there, and that throttles it back to 20 amps. Okay, not bad. 20 amp charge. That's plenty. That's fine. Except for when I turn it on, even at 20 amps, my RPMs drop just a little bit. That alternator's really struggling. So what other options do we have? 55 amp stock or the elusive, hard to find 65 amp. Well, you could pull the alternator out, take it down to a shop that, you know, specializes in updating the wiring and the windings and all that stuff inside and get yourself a higher amp alternator. Yeah, those places are getting harder and harder to find. Next option is a GM one-wire alternator. That's right. So there's your positive battery post. This right here is plugged off, but basically this thing will self-excite on its own. And this thing, believe it or not, at the time of recording this, is $70 for this 120 amp alternator. The reason I did that? Well, the paperwork shows it only tested at about 105 amp, which is 50 amps more than I currently have, is cheaper, readily available. This thing right here, I'll link it in the description down below, and also have an Amazon storefront, so you know you can find the alternator that way. This is a standard small block Chevy, big block Chevy alternator. You can find them anywhere, but there's a couple modifications we need to do in order to get this thing in. Go ahead and dive into that right now. But first, we need to go ahead and pull the old alternator out, and it's easy as really this front cover plate here, dipstick, pull your tube out, your fill tube for your oil. Pull your, this just kind of pops out of the way, your engine seal. And that'll get us down into the alternator there. If you have stock exhaust, stock heater boxes, it is possible to get this alternator out without having to pull the engine or pull your exhaust. I've done it, it's a livid pain, but it is possible. Oh, and one more thing, there's a good chance that we'll be able to even use the idiot light on the dash. All right, enough jibber jabber. Let's dive into this. I'm excited for this upgrade. Kind of can't go wrong with this, right? What's the worst that can happen? All right, really easy. So we got a 10 bolt there, 10 bolt there, a couple down right here. I removed this bottom tray right here just to make it a little easier for you guys to see. Now that we have that all out of the way, we will need to pull our dipstick out. There's a 10mm right here. And again, one of the 10 screws up here that helps hold this in place. So that's why you got to take those 10 pieces out. So we'll pull that one 10mm. Down here at the very bottom, right down here is a carriage bolt that locks it in. That's the bottom pivot bolt. But we can go ahead and loosen this up right here. There's a captive nut on the back. So we'll go ahead and loosen this up, get our fan belt off, bottom bolt off. Here, actually, I'll go ahead and show you that real quick. So there's your bracket here that the alternator sits in. So we got a nut right there, and I do have a nut on the back of this arm as well. So we'll go ahead and get those couple nuts off, disconnect our battery, and we'll be pulling this alternator right on out of there. Again, so much more room with aftermarket exhaust. I'll throw a link in the description down below, but that was a very easy, inexpensive exhaust upgrade. So with that nut off the back there, this carriage bolt right here should come right out. Again, that's for the lower part of the alternator. There we go. Let's go ahead and disconnect our battery before I forget. We don't need any bad accidents today. Let's get you another light. Hopefully that helps. And we got the 10mm right here. All right, so now that the lower pivot bolt is out and that 10mm, just sort of slide right on up over that dipstick tube, and voila, there's our alternator. So as you see, we just got to finish pulling this out and she'll be about ready to drop, of course, besides the wiring. Almost forgot, one other thing you got to pull is right here is your breather boot that goes into the back of the alternator to help keep it cool. And there's a clamp right there. Mine's Phillips. Say hi, Phillip. Can you see? So we're pretty much just loosening that up, and then we'll be able to wiggle that right off. So with the old alternator out, you notice your lower point, upper point, lower point, upper point, they're exactly 12 o'clock from one another. Here's where the difference is. Let's measure our old mounting point right there. It's about 2 1/8, 2 1/4, and that's right at 2 inches. So you got a couple different options here. Option one, here's your lower mounting bracket stud right here. You could go ahead and take this, narrow this or something, or option two, you could easily mount it and put a couple washers on the back side in between the alternator and this bracket, so it'll actually take up that slack a little bit more. I'm personally probably going to go that route because A, it'll be a little easier. B, if I ever need to swap back to the original, I'm possible. It won't be, you know, extreme modifications, and I will be able to go back to stock if I ever want to. But then again, everywhere has this alternator. Amazon, eBay, all your local stores have that alternator. So there's really no need to ever go back to the stock alternator. Now the downside. Oh wait, there's more of the good stuff. No more voltage regulator. We're done with that. It's you don't need it. That's a plus. Now, downside. I like having this on the back for that cooling air to come in. However, there's really no way to mount it on the back of this. You know, I may give it a whirl, but then again, it does have a cooling fan on the front to push air through, so I don't know if pushing air through this way and trying to push it through that way through the fan, I don't know if that's really going to help. What we could do is where this hooks up, do some kind of like little 90-degree boot or something, so it kind of blows the air at the back of this. We may do something like that. So really the only thing to do is go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to reuse my wire here because it is a nice heavy-duty 6 gauge or 4 gauge. I think it's 4. So we'll probably reuse that 4 gauge, and then we can go ahead. Let me actually see if I have more 4 gauge. Let's do it that way. All right, I ended up finding another 4 gauge wire, put some sheath around it. I thought I had one of those nice little rubber boots that go over the positive post, but I don't. So I used some of this Tessa tape. You know, it's a nice cloth tape that you use for harnesses and whatnot. So I used that to throw that on there just to help protect it. Now, as for the idiot light on the dash, did a little looking around, and basically you have 3 wires there at your voltage regulator. 2 of them go back to the voltage regulator. 1 runs forward. This wire's been spliced, so I can't tell you what color wire it is. But what I did is I went ahead and hooked up the positive negative on the battery, put a terminal end on it, and I just ran a jumper over here and came over here to the battery and tapped it on, and then verified that that right there is the wire for the idiot light on the dash. So now we know what wire goes up to the dash. And after doing some reading around, here's your plug here that covers your regular 2 spade terminals. All we got to do is kind of just pop that cover off, and there's 2 terminals right there. You can use a regular protected spade cover, and that goes on number 1. Number 1 on the back of the alternator is actually for your idiot light. So we can just take that spade terminal, stick it on there with a wire, and go over to our stock wire, and that should be good. Now on your dash, your idiot light itself, you'll actually get power from the idiot light from your gauge cluster, okay? So whenever your oil pressure light and your alternator light, those actually create the ground. So that wire right there, and the same for your oil pressure, is technically a ground wire. You get power from up front, so that wire right there, if you ground it, that's what lights it up, right? So the same with your oil pressure switch on any of the Volkswagens. So it builds up pressure, then as soon as the pressure releases, it grounds again to the engine case because it's screwed in, and bam. So really, all we need to do is make a small jumper wire to go from there and come out, and we'll hook it up. One more thing I forgot before we go and install it. This is actually threaded, the top bolt is actually threaded for the bolt to screw in this way. Problem is, doesn't quite work that way because the bracket's on the back side. So you got to drill it out so your bolt will actually go through, bracket on the back side, and then your nut. So don't forget that. Drill that out, whatever size you need for your bolt. Ended up redoing my post there. The post stuck up quite a bit further than this, and this kind of barely touches the head tin. So I ground that down so it's flush with the nut, and then this is just a vacuum cap I cut down to put over top. Then I'll go ahead and rewrap that, and then we'll be ready to shove it back in. I'm not gonna lie, that's the upper alternator bracket. I had to modify that a lot. I had to waller this hole out over to the side a little bit, up a little bit, and cut the bracket short. And now it should go back together. So far, so good. We've got 2 washers right here just to space it properly. And that should be pretty it. Just gotta get this back up top up there, and then get it bolted back in place. There's one single 13mm nut with a stud up there that holds this in place. I'd show you more, but it's kind of difficult to get in there and do it with 2 hands and show you. But we're getting there. All right, she's been a little bit of a struggle, but let me bring you up to speed. So alternator's in. I still have the tins out, as you see. Yeah, wiring's hooked up. The other one goes back over there for the idiot light. Let's see. Oh, belt. So I took the stock belt and actually cut it and zip tied it to the length I need. We'll take that down to the auto parts store, get a new belt. This is actually a Beetle belt for alternator setup. It's a Gates XL 7355. It's a 900. This one's stock is 965. So the 900 is a little short. 965, as you see, is too long. So hopefully we'll be able to get something, and we'll swing back and I'll let you know what belt we end up with. So this was definitely not as straightforward as I was hoping it would be. Definitely, you know, modifications as you've seen, but overall it's not horrible. For the price difference, kind of worth it in my opinion. So off to the parts store. You have to pardon the washer and stuff going on in the background. I mean, that's joys of doing work here in the garage. But made it back with a handful of V-belts from the auto parts store, and this is what we ended up with. It's a Master Pro 7365. It's a 3/8 by 37 1/8, or 10 millimeters by 942. And my adjustment is actually, you could go a little shorter. I mean, we still got room there, but belt's snug. I guess now we'll go ahead and hook power up. Let's go ahead and test this baby. Let's see if anything blows up. Nope, nothing blew up. Yeah. All right, negatives on, positives on, everything's wired up. Let's go ahead and hook up the voltmeter just so we can see what's going on. All right. Yep. There we go. So we are at 1255. All right. I don't know why I'm nervous. Oh wait, we got to get the keys. All right, keys obtained. Let's I don't know why I'm so nervous. We look here, we have battery and oil pressure. Now they're both on. All right. Battery light went off. Boy, she's cold. That alternator is kind of loud. Putting out 14.4. All right. Not bad. So it works. Putting out 14.4 still. Alternator light should be out. It is. Ignition back on. Battery light's on. Doesn't take much RPM. See, my oil light's still off because I have decent oil pressure and it's cold out. That's it. She works. And she's done. Everything's back together except for, basically we just need to figure out what we want to do with the tin around here. Other than that, she's good. The stock little doohickey bob, whatever that goes around the alternator, doesn't fit because of the fan. So, I mean, you know, we just got to figure something out, really just to cover up in here. I'll figure something out. Other than that, she's wrapped up, she's good. And I'll keep you updated and let you know how this alternator does. So as usual, this is not really a how-to video, as more of it is just one of those, this is how I'm doing it videos. And it worked for me, so use your imagination, think outside the box, and make it work for you. So until the next time, guys, be kind to one another, and be good.